The Valari Collective had kept peace in the galaxy for 12,000 years. 17 different species worked together under one government. They traded goods. They shared knowledge. They solved problems with words, never with weapons. War was something they read about in old history files. It was a thing of the past, a mistake that primitive species made before they grew wise. The collective believed they had found the answer to survival. Be peaceful. Be quiet. When danger comes, run away. Live to see another day. This philosophy had worked well for a very long time. When the Harvesters first appeared 3 centuries ago, the collective followed their usual plan. They evacuated planets. They moved populations. They watched from safe distances as the Harvesters consumed world after world. It was sad, yes. Millions died. But the collective survived. That was what mattered. Terrace was a young communications officer on Station Valari 9. She had only been working at her post for 40 cycles. In human time, that was about 6 months. She was nervous, eager to prove herself, and absolutely terrified of making mistakes. On the day, everything changed. She was working the night shift alone. Her supervisor had gone to eat dinner. The station was quiet. Most of the senior staff were sleeping. Then the emergency alert came through. The Harvesters had arrived at Cepha 7. Terrace felt her 4 hearts begin to beat faster. Cepha 7 was an agricultural world. 12 million Valari lived there, along with several million members of other species. They grew food that fed dozens of systems. The planet was important. And now it was dying. Standard protocol was clear. Send evacuation orders to Cepha 7. Alert nearby systems. Begin documentation for the historical archives. Accept the loss with dignity. Terrace followed the protocol perfectly. She sent all the right messages to all the right places. But then she did one thing wrong. Every species in the galaxy had a beacon frequency. It was like a phone number. When you wanted to talk to a specific species, you used their frequency. The collective had frequencies for all 17 member species, plus frequencies for various non-member species they traded with. There was also one frequency that was marked with red warnings. It was labeled, Quarantine Species Do Not Contact Category 1-2, Hazard. This frequency belonged to a species called humans. From a planet called Earth. The collective had been watching humans for about 200 years. What they saw frightened them. Humans came from a death world. Their planet was covered in poisons, predators, and disasters. Volcanoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, diseases that killed millions. Animals with claws and teeth that hunted anything that moved. And somehow, humans had not only survived on this nightmare world, they had thrived. They had become the dominant species. They had built cities, split atoms, and reached for the stars. The collective scientists had studied humans carefully. Their conclusion was simple. Stay away. Do not contact. Do not engage. These creatures are dangerous beyond measure. So the human frequency sat unused, locked behind security codes, marked with warnings. But Terrace was tired. She was scared. She was alone. And when she typed in the frequency for the general emergency broadcast, her fingers slipped. Instead of the collective's main emergency channel, she selected the frequency directly below it in the list. The human frequency. She pressed send. The message was simple. It contained the coordinates of Cepha 7. It described the Harvester attack. It asked for any available assistance. Terrace did not notice her mistake. She moved on to the next task, then the next. Her supervisor returned. The station continued its work. Nobody checked which frequencies the distress signal had used. 47 light-years away, a human listening post detected an unusual signal. The officer on duty was a young woman named Private Rodriguez. She'd been assigned to deep space monitoring because it was considered boring. Nothing ever happened. Alien signals were theoretical. First contact was something people talked about in movies. But now her screen was showing something impossible. A message from outside human space. A message in a language her computer could not understand. A message that was clearly, obviously, intentionally sent. Rodriguez called her commanding officer. Her commanding officer called the base commander. The base commander called Earth. Within 3 hours, every major government on the planet knew humanity was not alone in the universe. And someone out there was asking for help. The message was translated by teams of linguists, mathematicians, and computer experts working around the clock. The alien language was difficult, but not impossible. It was based on mathematical concepts that humans recognized. After 16 hours of work, they had a basic translation. The message said, "Attack in progress. Millions in danger. Requesting assistance. Please help." It took another 4 hours for Earth's leaders to realize something strange. The message had not been sent to humanity specifically. It was a general distress call that had accidentally reached human receivers. The aliens did not even know humans existed. Some politicians argued that humanity should stay quiet. This was not their problem. They should observe, learn, and protect themselves. Others argued that this was humanity's chance to make friends among the stars. Helping these aliens could lead to trade, technology, and alliances. But for most people, the argument was much simpler. Someone was in trouble. Someone had asked for help. What kind of species would humanity be if they ignored a cry for help? On Station Valari 9, Terrace finally discovered her mistake. She found the error in the transmission logs during a routine check. Her blood ran cold. She had contacted the Deathworlders. She had broken the most important rule in the collective. She ran to tell her supervisor. Her supervisor told the station commander. The station commander contacted Valari Prime. By the time the collective's leadership understood what had happened, it was too late. The humans had already sent a reply. The message was short. It said, "Help is coming. Hold on." The Valari looked at those 4 words and felt something they had not felt in 12,000 years. Fear. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in front of the largest screen she had ever seen. It showed a map of space that extended far beyond human territory. A small red dot marked Earth. A blue dot, very far away, marked the source of the alien signal. Between those 2 dots was nothing. Empty space. Unknown territory. Possible dangers that no human had ever faced. She was 62 years old. She had served in the United Earth Defense Force for 40 years. She had fought pirates near Mars. She had commanded rescue. Operations on Titan. She had helped build. Humanity's first colony outside the solar system. But nothing had prepared her for this. The message. Played again on the screen. Attack in progress. Millions in danger. Requesting assistance. Please help. The room was full of important people. Politicians, scientists, military, officers, diplomats. Everyone had opinions. Everyone wanted to talk. The politicians worried about resources. The fleet would need fuel, supplies, and personnel. Who would pay for this? What would the voters say? The scientists worried about the unknown. What were these harvesters? How powerful were they? What if humanity's weapons could not hurt them? The diplomats worried about first contact. Humanity had no experience talking to aliens. What if they made a mistake? What if they accidentally started a war? The military officers worried about everything. Admiral Chun listened to all of them. She understood their concerns. They were all valid. This mission was dangerous. It might fail. Humans might die for a species they had never met, but she kept coming back to one simple fact. Someone had asked for help. Her grandfather had been a fisherman in Taiwan. When she was young, he had told her stories about life on the sea. One story had stayed with her forever. Once, during a terrible storm, her grandfather had received a distress call from a boat he did not know. The boat was sinking. The crew was dying. The storm was too dangerous to sail through. Her grandfather went anyway. He risked his boat, his crew, and his life to save strangers. When asked why, he had given a simple answer. Because they called. Because they needed help. What kind of man ignores a call for help? Admiral Chun had lived by those words her entire life. She stood up. The room fell silent. "We are going," she said. "That is not up for debate. The only question is how fast we can get there." Some politicians tried to argue. She cut them off. "Listen to me carefully. Somewhere out there, millions of living beings are dying. They sent a message into the void, hoping someone would hear. Someone did. We did. And we are going to answer." The vote was held within the hour. It was not unanimous, but it was enough. The mission was approved. The next 72 hours were the busiest in human military history. The 7th Expeditionary Fleet was assembled at Luna Station. 14 destroyers, each one carrying enough firepower to level a city. 6 carriers, each one home to hundreds of fighter craft. 2 hospital ships, equipped with the best medical technology humanity had ever built. And the USS Defiance, humanity's first and only dreadnought, a ship so large it took 20 minutes to walk from one end to the other. 40,000 men and women volunteered for the mission. They came from every country on Earth. They spoke dozens of languages. They followed different religions. They had different skin colors, different cultures, different beliefs. But they all agreed on one thing. Someone needed help. They were going to provide it. The preparation was rushed. There was no time for proper planning. They did not know what they would find. They did not know if their weapons would work. They did not know if they would survive. None of that mattered. Private James Cooper was 23 years old. He had joined the Marines 2 years ago because he wanted to make a difference. When he heard about the mission, he was the first in his unit to volunteer. His mother called him before departure. She was crying. She begged him not to go. It was too dangerous. Nobody knew what would happen. James told her what Admiral Chun had told the council. Someone had asked for help. What kind of person ignores that? Dr. Maria Santos was a surgeon on the hospital ship USS Hope. She was 51 years old. She had spent her career saving lives. Now she was going to save lives that were not even human. She did not know what alien biology looked like. She did not know if her medicines would work. She brought everything she could think of and hoped it would be enough. Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka was a fighter pilot. She had dreamed of flying in space since she was a little girl. Now she was going to fly into combat against an enemy no human had ever seen. She was terrified. She was also excited. This was why she had become a pilot. To protect people. To fight for those who could not fight for themselves. The fleet departed on schedule. 40,000 humans watched as Earth grew smaller in their viewports. Many of them wondered if they would ever see home again. Admiral Chun addressed the fleet before they entered faster than light travel. In a few days, we will meet species that have never seen humans before. They will judge our entire race by our actions. Let them see the best of us. Let them see that when humanity hears a cry for help, we answer. No matter the distance, no matter the danger, no matter the cost. She paused. 40,000 people waited. The galaxy is about to learn what it means to have humans as friends. Let us make sure that is a lesson they never forget. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed and vanished from human space. Back on station Valari 9, Terrace watched the human response with growing horror. She had expected maybe one ship, maybe a small scout vessel sent to observe. Instead, the Deathworlders were sending a war fleet. Thousands of soldiers, weapons beyond imagination, ships designed for one purpose: destruction. What had she done? She had meant to ask for help. Instead, she had unleashed a monster. The collective's leadership held emergency meetings. Some wanted to send warnings to Cepha 7, evacuate everyone before the humans arrived. Others wanted to send a message to the humans, telling them to turn back, but nobody knew what to do. Nobody had ever dealt with humans before. Nobody knew how they would react, so they did nothing. They watched. They waited. They prayed. And the human fleet kept coming. The Valari observation post near Cepha 7 was small. It had a crew of 12. Their job was simple: watch the planet, document the harvester attack, and stay out of danger. Officer Cavill was on duty when his sensors detected something strange. There were energy signatures approaching from deep space. The signatures were unlike anything in the collective's database. They were powerful. They were fast. They were heading directly toward Cepha 7. Cavill checked his readings 3 times. Then he sent an emergency message to Valari Prime. The humans were coming. The collective's leadership received the news during a council meeting. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then chaos erupted. "How many ships?" demanded Councillor Viaran. "Our sensors count 24 vessels," Cavill reported through the communication link. 14 appear to be combat ships. 6 are carriers of some kind. 2 have unusual energy signatures that we cannot identify. And there is one very large ship. How large? Cavill checked his readings again. Over 4 kilometers long. Our database has no record of any vessel that size. It is the largest artificial structure we have ever detected. The council fell silent again. For 12,000 years, the collective had avoided war. They had no warships. They had no weapons larger than personal defense tools. They had survived by running, by hiding, by never fighting back. Now a fleet of warships was approaching their space, and they had nothing to stop it. "We must surrender," said Councillor Viaran. "Immediately, before they arrive." "Surrender to what?" asked another councillor. "They have not made any demands. They are Deathworlders. They do not need to make demands. They will take what they want. Our only hope is to show submission before they decide to destroy us." The debate went on for hours. In the end, they decided on a plan. They would send a diplomatic vessel to meet the human fleet. They would offer complete surrender. They would give the humans anything they wanted. Maybe, just maybe, the Deathworlders would show mercy. The diplomatic vessel was called the Voice of Peace. It was not a warship. It had no weapons. It was designed for one purpose: to talk. Captain Celeris was chosen to lead the mission. She was old, experienced, and ready to die for her people. She knew this mission might be her last. Her crew consisted of translators, diplomats, and a medical team in case the humans wanted hostages. They loaded the ship with gifts, rare metals, precious gems, data files containing all the collective's scientific knowledge. Anything that might please the Deathworlders. The Voice of Peace launched and headed toward the approaching fleet. They made contact 3 days later. Captain Celeris had seen images of humans before. She thought she was prepared. She was wrong. The human ships were terrifying. They were covered in weapons. Their hulls were thick, designed to take damage and keep fighting. Every surface was armored. Every angle was aggressive. These were not ships built for exploration or trade. These were ships built for war. And the largest ship, the one the humans called Defiance, was beyond anything Celeris had imagined. It blocked out the stars behind it. Its weapons were visible from thousands of kilometers away. It looked like death itself. The voice of peace began broadcasting on all frequencies. Attention, human vessels. We are the Valari Collective. We come in peace. We wish to surrender. Please do not attack. We will give you anything you want. Please respond. The message played over and over. Saris waited, her heart's pounding. Finally, a response came. A human face appeared on the screen. It was a female, Saris knew, though humans all looked strange to her. The female had dark hair, dark eyes, and an expression that Saris could not read. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Force. We received your distress signal. We are here to help. Saris did not understand. She checked with her translators. The translation was correct, but the meaning made no sense. Help? She repeated. You are here to help? Yes, said Admiral Chun. Your message said you were under attack. We came to assist. Where is the enemy? Saris felt her mind struggling to process this information. Deathworlders did not help. They conquered. They destroyed. They took. I do not understand, she admitted. We are offering surrender. You may take whatever you wish. Our resources, our technology, our territory. Only please spare our people. There was a pause. Admiral Chun's expression changed to something Saris later learned was called confusion. We do not want your territory, the Admiral said slowly. We do not want your resources. We received a distress call. We came to help. That is all. But why? We are not your people. We have nothing to offer you. Why would you risk your ships and your soldiers for strangers? Admiral Chun was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was soft. Because you asked. Because you needed help. In our culture, that is reason enough. Saris felt something she had never felt before. It took her a long time to identify the emotion. It was hope. The enemy, she said finally. They are called harvesters. They attack planets and consume all resources. Living beings, plants, water, minerals, everything. They are on the surface of Sevis now. 12 million of our people are still there. How do we stop them? We do not know. We have never stopped them. Nothing we have tried has ever worked. Admiral Chun nodded. Tell me everything you know. What they look like. How they fight. What weapons they use. We will figure out the rest. For the next several hours, Saris shared all the collective's data on the harvesters. She showed videos of previous attacks. She explained their biology, their tactics, their weaknesses, if any existed. Admiral Chun listened carefully. She asked questions. She took notes. She did not seem afraid. When the briefing was complete, Admiral Chun stood up. Thank you, Captain. This information is very helpful. We will engage the harvesters within 6 hours. Admiral, Saris said hesitantly, our scientists believe the harvesters cannot be defeated. They regenerate too quickly. They are too numerous. Many species have tried to fight them. All have failed. Admiral Chun smiled. It was a strange expression on a human face. Saris could not tell if it was friendly or dangerous. Perhaps it was both. Captain, with respect, those other species were not human. We have been fighting and killing since before we came down from the trees. War is in our blood. It is in our history. It is in our nature. The harvesters are about to learn what that means. She turned to her crew. Battle stations. All ships prepare for combat. We have people to save. The human fleet moved toward Sephir 7. Captain Saris watched them go. For the first time in centuries, someone was going to fight back. The harvesters had no concept of fear. They were a hive mind, millions of individual creatures linked together into one vast intelligence. They had consumed 17 worlds. They had destroyed species that had existed for millions of years. Nothing had ever stopped them. When the human fleet arrived at Sci-Fi 7, the harvesters did not feel fear. They felt curiosity. New prey had appeared, new resources to consume. The hive mind directed its attention toward the approaching ships and began calculating how long it would take to digest them. The calculation was interrupted by nuclear fire. Admiral Chun's strategy was simple. Hit hard, hit fast. Give the enemy no time to adapt. The first wave of missiles streaked toward the harvester bioships before the humans even announced their presence. 3 carriers exploded in bright flashes of light. The harvesters reacted with confusion. In 3 centuries of conquest, no species had ever attacked first. No species had ever used weapons this powerful. The hive mind sent signals to its swarms: investigate, engage, destroy. Millions of harvester drones launched from their carriers. They looked like insects, each one the size of a small car. Their claws could cut through metal. Their bodies could survive in the vacuum of space. They had overwhelmed entire planetary defenses through sheer numbers. They had never faced human fighter pilots. Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka led Eagle Squadron into the swarm. Her fighter was small, fast, and loaded with enough weapons to level a building. She had trained for years for moments like this. She was ready. The drones came at her in waves. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. They blotted out the stars. She opened fire. Her guns were designed to shoot fast. Very fast. Thousands of rounds per minute. Each round was small but deadly. She cut through the first wave like a knife through paper. Drones exploded. Bodies scattered. The swarm kept coming, but Tanaka was not alone. 200 pilots followed her into battle. Their guns created walls of fire. The drones died by the thousands, then by the tens of thousands, then by the hundreds of thousands. The hive mind had never experienced this. It sent more drones. The humans killed more drones. It sent faster drones. The humans killed faster. It tried to surround them. The humans flew through the gaps, always moving, always shooting, never stopping. On the surface of 7-7, the ground battle was even more intense. Private James Cooper landed with the first wave of Marines. His drop pod hit the ground hard enough to crack the earth. He was out and moving before the dust settled. The planet was dying. The harvesters had already consumed half the vegetation. The air smelled wrong. The ground felt wrong. Everything was wrong. Cooper did not care. His mission was simple: get to the evacuation zone. Protect the civilians. Hold the line until everyone was safe. The harvesters on the ground were larger than the drones in space. They stood 3 meters tall. They had 4 arms, each one ending in blades that could cut through armor. Their mouths were designed to eat anything, living or dead. Cooper shot the first one in the face. It fell. He shot the second one. It fell. He kept shooting around him. 5,000 Marines did the same thing. They formed defensive lines. They set up heavy weapons. They protected the evacuation shuttles as civilians ran for safety. The harvesters kept coming. They always kept coming. But the humans did not run. They did not retreat. They stood their ground and killed everything that came at them. The hive mind was experiencing something new. It analyzed the data from thousands of dead drones and soldiers. It calculated the rate of attrition. It estimated how long the battle would last. The numbers did not make sense. The humans were taking losses. Their ships were damaged. Their soldiers were dying. But they did not stop. They did not slow down. If anything, they fought harder when they lost people. They seemed to become more dangerous with each casualty. The hive mind searched its memories of 17 conquered worlds. It found nothing like this. No species had ever responded to death with more aggression. No species had ever seemed to welcome the destruction. Then something happened that had never happened before in Harvester history. The UES Defiance took a direct hit from a Harvester biocannon. The weapon was the largest the Harvesters possessed. It had destroyed ships 10 times its size. It hit the Defiance directly in the center that the Defiance kept coming, that it was damaged. It was on fire. Parts of it were falling away into space. But it did not stop. It did not turn. It accelerated. Admiral Chun's voice came over all frequencies. "All hands, brace for impact. We are going in." The Defiance rammed the largest Harvester carrier at full speed. The collision was visible from the planet's surface. 2 ships, each 1 kilometers long, smashing together with the force of a small moon. Both ships exploded, but the Defiance had done more than destroy 1 carrier. It had broken the back of the Harvester fleet. The carriers were the heart of the swarm. Without them, the drones lost coordination. They became confused. They became vulnerable. The human fleet moved in for the kill. For 3 more hours, the battle raged. The humans lost ships. They lost soldiers. They lost friends. But they did not lose the battle. On the ground, Sergeant Cooper held a position for 47 minutes against continuous assault. When his ammunition ran out, he used his knife. When his knife broke, he used his hands. When the enemy finally overwhelmed his position, he detonated the explosives strapped to his chest. He took 53 Harvesters with him. Stories like his happened across the battlefield. Pilots who flew their damaged fighters into enemy ships. Medics who died protecting wounded soldiers. Officers who stayed behind so their troops could escape. Every human death cost the Harvesters 100 lives. The hive mind made another calculation. It analyzed the battle data with all its vast intelligence. It considered the losses it had suffered. It projected how many more it would suffer. For the first time in its existence, the hive mind reached a conclusion it had never reached before. The cost of victory was too high. This prey was too dangerous. This world was not worth the price. The Harvesters began to retreat. At first, the humans did not believe it. They kept fighting. They kept shooting. But the Harvesters were pulling back. Their ships were leaving orbit. Their ground forces were withdrawing to their landing craft. By hour 11, the last Harvester ship jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished. SciFi 7 was saved. 8 million civilians had been evacuated. 4 million had died before the humans arrived. But 8 million survived. 8 million lives that would have been lost. The human fleet had paid a heavy price. 5 destroyers were destroyed. The Defiance was gone. 3,000 humans had died in space. 2,000 more had died on the ground, but they had won. Admiral Chun was found alive in an escape pod 3 hours after the battle. She had ejected from the Defiance moments before impact. Her injuries were severe, but she would survive. When she woke up in the hospital ship, the first words she spoke became famous across the galaxy. "Did we save them?" Dr. Santos smiled through her tears. "Yes, Admiral. We saved them." Chun closed her eyes and slept. The galaxy had never seen anything like the Battle of SciFi 7. The recordings spread from system to system, species to species. Everyone watched. Everyone tried to understand what they had seen. A species from a death world had traveled across the stars to fight for strangers. They had faced an enemy that had never been defeated. They had paid in blood and fire. And they had won. The Valari Collective held emergency meetings for 3 weeks straight. Their historians studied the battle footage. Their scientists analyzed human tactics. Their philosophers debated the meaning of what had happened. The conclusion was always the same. Everything they believed about Deathworlders was wrong. Humans were dangerous, yes. They were violent. They were terrifying in battle. But they had not used that violence to conquer or destroy. They had used it to protect, to save, to help. This was something the collective had never considered possible. On Cephas 7, the work of rebuilding began. The planet was scarred. Half its forests were gone. Many cities were destroyed. But life remained. 8 million people remained. The humans stayed to help. Engineering teams from Earth worked alongside Valari construction crews. They repaired buildings. They cleaned water supplies. They rebuilt the infrastructure that the harvesters had destroyed. They asked for nothing in return. Dr. Santos led medical teams across the planet. She had spent weeks studying Valari biology, learning how to help her new patients. She saved lives every day. She trained local doctors in human medical techniques. She shared medicines and equipment freely. Why? A young Valari doctor asked her one day, "Why do you give so much and ask for nothing?" Dr. Santos thought about the question. On Earth, we have a saying, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." It means we should treat others the way we want to be treated. If Earth was attacked, we would want someone to help us. So we help others. But we cannot help you, the doctor said. We have nothing to offer. Our technology is inferior. Our resources are limited. We are weak. You are not weak, Santos said gently. You just have not needed to be strong. And maybe now you will not need to be. Maybe we can be strong for you. The young doctor did not fully understand, but he felt something warm in his chest. Something like hope. Terrace was terrified to meet the humans. She was the one who had sent the signal. She was the one who had made the error that started everything. She expected punishment. She expected anger. She expected the humans to blame her for the deaths of 5,000 of their people. Admiral Chun met her in the medical bay of the hospital ship. The Admiral was recovering from her injuries. She had bandages on her face, and her arm was in a cast. But her eyes were clear, and her voice was strong. "So you are Terrace," the Admiral said. "The one who sent the signal." Terrace could not look at her. "Yes, I made a mistake. I selected the wrong frequency. I am so sorry. So many of your people died because of my error." "Look at me," Chun said. Terrace raised her eyes. "You did not make an error," the Admiral said. "You made a call for help. We chose to answer. The people who died made their own choices. They chose to come. They chose to fight. They chose to protect strangers. That is not your fault. That is who we are. But why?" Terrace asked. "I do not understand. Your people died for us. For people you never met. For a species you did not know existed. Why would anyone do that?" Admiral Chun smiled. It was the first human smile Terrace had ever seen. It was warm and sad and proud all at once. "Because you called," Chun said simply. "Because you needed help. On Earth, that is enough. It has always been enough. When someone cries for help, you answer. You do not ask what they can give you. You do not calculate the cost. You just go." Terrace felt tears forming in her eyes. Valari did not cry often, but this moment deserved tears. "You did not make an error," Chun repeated. "You made a friend." The Collective's Council voted unanimously to end the quarantine of human space. More than that, they voted to invite humanity to join the Collective. It was the first time in 12,000 years that the invitation had been extended to a new species. The humans accepted with enthusiasm. Diplomats arrived. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchange programs began. For the first time in galactic history, humans and aliens worked together not as enemies, not as strangers, but as partners. The changes happened slowly at first, then faster. Human music played in Valari concert halls. Valari art appeared in human museums. Children of both species learned each other's languages. Friendships formed. Families formed. The galaxy began to change. But the biggest change was something harder to measure. It was a change in how other species thought about the universe. For 12,000 years, the collective had believed that survival meant avoiding conflict. They had believed that peace came from weakness, from surrender, from running away. The humans taught them a different lesson. Sometimes peace required strength. Sometimes safety required someone willing to fight. Sometimes the best way to protect the weak was to stand between them and danger. The harvesters never returned to collective space. The hive mind had learned its lesson. There was prey in the galaxy that was not worth hunting. There were worlds that would cost too much to take. The humans had taught them something too. Years passed. Decades passed. The Battle of Sci-Fi 7 became history. Then it became legend. Then it became something more. It became a promise. A promise that spread from system to system, species to species, world to world. A promise that traveled on subspace frequencies and diplomatic pouches and whispered conversations. If you are in danger, if you are alone, if you have no hope left, if your enemies are too strong and your friends are too few, call the humans. They will come. They will fight. They will die for you if they must. Not because they want anything from you. Not because they expect anything in return. But because you asked. Because you needed help. Because that is who they are. On Earth, a memorial was built for the 5,000 who died at Sci-Fi 7. It stood in a garden near the ocean, where the waves could sing to the fallen. Each name was carved in stone. Each life was remembered. Admiral Chan visited the memorial every year until she died at the age of 97. She would walk among the names, touching each stone, remembering each face. In her will, she asked for one thing. She wanted her ashes scattered at Sci-Fi 7 on the world she had helped to save. The Valari honored her request. They built a second memorial there, next to the first one built for their own dead. Two memorials side by side. Two species, joined forever. And above them both, carved in both human and Valari language, were the words that defined everything. They called. We answered. This was the legacy of one error. One signal sent to the wrong frequency. One cry for help heard by creatures from a death world. The galaxy had learned the truth about humans. They were dangerous, yes. They were violent. They were terrifying in battle. But they were also the best friend the galaxy had ever known. And heaven help anyone who threatened their friends.